Welcome to another episode of the Plutus Awards podcast. Our community is filled with hundreds of stories from creators and entrepreneurs just like you. And through this podcast, we plan to share these stories from bloggers to podcasters, writers, speakers, and more.
Welcome to the Plutus Awards podcast. I'm Harlan Landes, and today our guest is Jake Wade from iHeartBudgets. Jake is a budgeting expert. Tell us a little bit about iHeartBudgets, Jake.
Absolutely. Yeah. So iHeartBudgets started as a passion project for me back in 2012. It really came out of my wife getting super annoyed with me. And what I mean by that was we got engaged in 2008. I had no idea what I was doing with my money. I had actually blown through $100,000 in 3 years, which was awful. And wow. I hate running the numbers on what that could have been, but I do it just to keep myself humble. Yeah, and we ran out of money, and then I got engaged. So perfect timing. We got on a budget, and we were able to live on very little when we first got married. And then we were able to just keep using that budget to make strategic decisions in our life that helped us, get into a house. And my wife was able to stay at home. And as our income grew, we just were smart and strategic with it. And so other people, especially ones that knew how much I made and were working in similar places with me, they're like, how are you doing XYZ move in your life? I'm like, it's a budget. That's it. And so I started helping people at work get on a budget. And then I started helping people at church and at home and at, family and friends. But I wouldn't stop talking about it. And I was just like, oh yeah, this budgeting. And I started learning, I was knee deep in all the personal finance, learning about investing and debt payoff and all that. And my wife was just like, can you please stop talking about this? Go talk at anybody else. You know what? Go talk at the internet. And so I did. So I started iHeartBudgets.net to talk at the internet about all the great things about budgeting.
How's that going for your site so far?
It was really cool because I did it for a while just on the side at a passion, and then it grew into like a side business for a while. I actually hit pause on it in 2016 when we had more kids being born, and I got a sales job that had me traveling a ton. I lost that passion for it. So we did this crazy thing in 2018. I actually quit my job. We sold everything we owned. We packed the kids in an RV and said, let's go. So 2 years later, we're still traveling on the road, and iHeartBudgets is now the website that I'm using to help people with their money like I used to before, but I'm also doing coaching, and I've got a live masterclass that I do. And it's really just this growing business that I finally get a 100% pour into my passion of helping people with money. So it's going well. It's still growing, getting it off the ground to help as many people as we possibly can with their budget, with their debt, with their investing, all of those things.
You said you were traveling. How's that working out?
Yeah, as you can see, I'm right here in Bryce Canyon National Park. Not really. I'm in the truck of my car because it's the quietest place. We bought a 31-foot RV, and we have 3 kids that are 8, 6, and 4. But when they left, they were 6, 4, and 1. So we've been on the road for just over 2 years. We're in, I think, our 32nd state over 2 years, and we've been to 20 plus national parks and many more national monuments and landmarks, and we've just been all over, and it is life-changing. It really is one of those things where it shifts your whole perspective on what you need in life and what's important. And it's for us, our definition of freedom. So we love traveling. It's fantastic. And we probably got another year in us before, we kind of want to settle in, let the kids grow some roots in a community type thing. But so far, we're digging it a lot.
Yeah, that must be an amazing experience, especially for the kids. I'm sure there's a lot that they can learn about the country and the world just by traveling.
It's a perspective shift. I'm so glad they're not in their own bubble. And there's nothing wrong with having a community and all that, but they are just getting this education that you don't get being in, around the same people, around the same community, around the same environment all the time. Their environment changes, and not only the landscape, but the society and the way people do life around them changes so often. They're just used to it, and they can interact with any type of person from anywhere, and they're learning. The education they're getting is sticking because they're living it, and then they enjoy it too because they're interested in, what happened here? Oh, some old thing. Hey, look, a cool old building. And then it sticks. We're really enjoying seeing them learn, seeing the country through their eyes. They're not jaded like we are as adults. Mm-hmm. So it's been really, really cool to see them in this environment.
Oh, that's great. So you've been traveling before the world has been affected by COVID-19 and during. What are some of the changes that you've seen and any difficulties for you while you've been on the road?
Yeah, so what happened for us was in early March, we had a friend that was in the medical field and was kind of like, hey, this thing's kind of coming. So we sort of had a little pre-warning a few weeks prior. And so we stay in RV parks, and we found one that was kind of a quiet RV park. And as soon as we got in there the next day, they shut everything down. And this is mid-March. And so, or maybe it was early March. And so we got stuck for, I think it was 2.5 months in an RV park. Now, we're used to traveling every 2 weeks and seeing new places and going to new things. And so it did drastically change our plans. We were blessed to be in a park that was, they were very respectful. They kept it half full. Everybody there was sort of just kind of holed up together and polite, respectful, and awesome. And we had just got a dog, so it was great. They actually had a dog park on site. So we were able to, stretch our legs and have a nice little place to be. But for us, especially for my wife and I, Michelle, after 2-3 weeks, we're kind of itching like, hey, what's the next thing? And there was no next thing. It was a full stop for us, just adjust to sort of being there. And the really fun parts about RV life kind of got put on hold. And so, yeah, it was kind of like, oh man, like this is pausing everything. But at that same time, it was like, wow, this is like everywhere. And as a money blogger, like the first thing I saw, like when this was happening was like literally everything's on hold, all businesses, everything. And that's going to affect an insane amount of people. And so as soon as I started seeing that there was, some debates and discussions on some financial relief for people, I'm like, I need to get on this now because people don't want to hear about the next budgeting tip, right? I'm sending emails weekly to my people and I'm like, they don't care. Everything just changed. So I immediately said, how can I help? What can I do here? And so it slowed down our travels and our life, but it allowed me to just kind of dive deep and say, okay, how can I help people right where they are? Which is the thing that I've always wanted to do. And then I just had this opportunity to do it in a very specific way and help them with what's going on in the world right now.
Yeah, so you had the time, the flexibility to pivot when all of these events occurred, and you had the flexibility to focus specifically on COVID-19 in terms of the advice that you were given. That's, it's great that you were able to do that. What else was your family doing at this time? Just being in one spot, what kept them busy?
Yeah, just being outside, the beautiful weather. We were in North Carolina, and we were able to actually just like be outside in our little space and breathe some fresh air. So like that kept us sane because we live in a hallway, basically. We live in 300 square feet. And so we wouldn't be holed up in there. It would drive us nuts. So they were able to do outside, just do the schooling thing, take the dog for walks, just kind of build our own little routines. Because our routines before were very different, right? It was like, okay, every 2 weeks we're going to travel and go figure out something new and explore some new state. So now we had to develop sort of at-home routines. And so, yeah, they would just do all of those things. It's almost like we settled down for a couple of months and just sort of built an at-home routine at that time. And then that whole time I was just slamming on the computer. I was doing as much research as I possibly could to crank out that page. And even before we get into that, I do want to because people are like, okay, so this guy's just like traveling around the country. I want to preface it with, we sort of built this version of financial freedom for ourselves. A big piece of that was we saved a bunch and then we sold our house. We were looking at larger places, larger houses, and I realized we were just going to trap ourselves in sort of this keeping up with the Joneses if we kept down that path. And we just had this huge pivot moment. And we said, you know what, let's actually just grab some of this equity and the savings and take some time. So initially it was just to take a year off. We took a year to just reset our whole lives, and I tell people we bought that year, right? We chose to allocate money toward our version of freedom in that way. And then after that year off, we've been building our business on the side. And it is truly, when you run your own online business, you have the flexibility that we have just to pivot and focus on what's important there. I'm in the business of helping people with their money. And the most pressing need that came up was job loss, cut hours, and everything that COVID-19 brought. And so I said, let me dive into this as fast as I possibly can to get people the financial relief they need.
So you dove into that and you've been keeping it updated since then. What can people find if they look for your COVID-19 resources page right now?
Yeah, so it became a huge resource when the first CARES Act came out at the end of March. And that was the one that gave the stimulus checks and the extra $600 a week for unemployment and all the other relief pieces on a national level. And so it was really built off of the CARES Act. Since that's come out, you can go in there and look at and find, obviously, information on the stimulus checks that came out. And I know there's a ton of information out there all over the place about those now specifically. It talked about unemployment, who used to qualify and then who now qualifies, because self-employment people didn't used to qualify for unemployment. And a lot of other reasons for being unemployed, like you had to wait a couple of weeks, or at least wait. There was this waiting period before you could apply, and then you had to apply for new jobs every week just to receive unemployment. All that stuff went away because they said this is unique. Businesses are locked and shut down because of COVID-19. I basically tried to build out a resource that says, here's exactly who qualifies, and it's way more people than you would think. There's even people today that just haven't applied for unemployment because they didn't realize they qualified, because traditionally they wouldn't have. So they can still go check out the resources on that page and qualify for back pay all the way to when, their thing was shut down or their hours were reduced. I had overviews on the small business loans for a lot of small businesses that were impacted, the PPP and the IDL loans. You could find that information. But then I reached out to our community, our financial community, and I got a ton of people giving resources on how to handle your money during an emergency. And so not just how to make a budget, but where to find school lunches, right? There was all these programs state by state. Somebody built a state by state breakdown of where to find those free school lunches because a lot of people rely on those. How to get free testing to make sure, back then, a COVID-19 test was over $1,000 and everybody was freaking out. And so the CARES Act covered that, but people didn't know that they could qualify, right? And so you could find information on getting free testing and how to qualify, how to get not unemployment, but there was another sick pay, right? And a lot of people were like, I work for DoorDash. I don't qualify for sick pay. I'm an independent contractor. Well, they changed the game on that. There were new rules through that. So it was really built on that bill, and I wanted to organize it into sections that say, okay, here's the info on stimulus checks and unemployment and the small business loans, and hey, school lunches and sick pay and free testing and all of those things. And then I have a section at the bottom where I reached out, and I think there might be over 50 at this point, 50 resources from money experts around the US that said, here are some places that you could get financial relief, whether it's finding a little extra money on the side during this time or lowering and negotiating your bills down. There's a whole section on credit card relief, for example. A lot of people have high interest credit cards and they're like, I can't pay. I'm unemployed and there's an issue here. There were a lot of credit card manufacturers that stepped up and said, hey, there's some options here. Give us a call. So I put that resource together. I will admit it's not day to day up to date as of today because there hasn't been, honestly, I'm kind of waiting on the HEALS Act. We're kind of waiting for the government to pass that new big relief bill. But it is still current and relevant for a lot of the details and resources that people need just for day-to-day managing their finances, especially unemployment is still there. And so you could find all of that stuff on one page. And I wanted to organize it on one place so you can just go quickly, I need this, boom, click in, and then find your resource. And then I link out to all the resources and details that you need.
And I was going to ask what some of the latest updates might be. I know news has slowed down as people tend to be getting back to, in a lot of cases, back to some semblance of life. Right as we're recording this, schools all over the country are coming back in session, some of them in hybrid mode, some in remote. What else is going on? Are we close to anything being announced in terms of more support for people?
Yeah, so I've been following the negotiations in Congress. There were two bills proposed. One was called the HEROES Act. One was called the HEALS Act. Democrats did the HEROES Act. The Republican side did the HEALS Act. And essentially, it's up for debate right now. There are some arguments on whether unemployment should have been kept at $600 extra per week for a little while longer. As of right now, that expired in July, which was a big deal. And so the president had an executive order to move it to about $300 extra a week. So even that, the people that were getting unemployment are going to get a $1,200 reduction per month. Right, as of right now. And so that's the biggest argument. I haven't checked the news this morning. I usually just pop on and check it in the morning. But as of right now, they're debating on how much unemployment per week people are going to get and for how long, right? What is it, through the end of the year? Is it through the end of November? That's still up in the air. But I do believe they're going to pass some kind of relief. I was hoping it was supposed to be in August. I mean, that's what everybody was looking at, and it's just been pushed out because the president stepped in and at least extended some relief. One thing that both sides do agree on is some version of stimulus checks, very similar to the last one, is what was proposed. So like $1,200 per person stimulus checks are possible. But man, the political environment, it is very difficult to tell whether that's going to happen this week or after the elections. It's unfortunate and it's very frustrating, but it's kind of on hold until they can come to an agreement on unemployment and a couple other things.
Well, I hope, like everyone else, that we get some good news on this rather quickly. You mentioned that the resources page includes 50-some resources from money experts, and that you've collected a lot from the financial community. What has the financial community done in response to COVID-19? How have they stepped up?
Yeah, a lot of what I've seen is people created similar resources on their pages of just like, they know their people and they're like, you know what, my people need to know about the options for maybe it's unemployment or my people are looking to make money on the side here. So they start highlighting opportunities. Because even amidst all of this change, there are always, maybe some opportunities to build small side businesses or something like that. So I've seen a lot of people build out those types of resources, which is pretty cool. And it seems like a lot of people are kind of coming together to figure out, I don't know. I think they had a similar mindset as me in the money community of just learning about the latest, greatest credit card offer is not necessarily going to help them right now because that doesn't matter. They're way bigger things. So I saw a big pivot and a lot of people put, you go to almost any money website and they're like, here's our COVID-19 resources page, which is, I think it's just so awesome because it's people in the financial community being in tune to what people need right now and not just sort of giving, not that standard money advice is bad. It's always good to budget. It's always good to figure out what's going on with your money. But if you need relief now, it's really cool to see a lot of people building out those types of resources. And not just the money piece. There was a few resources on mine that are talking about the mental wellness aspect of it as well, right? Because it is, there's a lot of stress and anxiety going on right now and trying to not only just like check the boxes and make sure you do the right things for your money, but taking care of your mental is a ginormous challenge right now. So there's even a couple of resources on my page for that, which I thought it was really cool where people they're just being empathetic and talking through like, it's okay to like freak out. That's all right. And to have a plan. You can do both. And then there's some great resources and steps to help you through what's going on right now because it's unprecedented. It is really cool to see the financial community kind of build out just kind of step up and help people right where they're at.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the response throughout the community has been fantastic, and it shows that there is a lot of compassion out there. So, for anyone who's feeling like the community needs a little bit of compassion, if you look at some of the responses here, I think it's great. So how can people find the resources page, number one, and then get in contact with you?
Yeah, easiest way is if you just hop on iHeartBudgets.net, you'll see a big section at the top that says COVID-19 Financial Resources, or you could go to iHeartBudgets.net/COVID-19-financial-resources, and you're going to find the page there. And it's not just a single page. This page is sort of the hub, and then I link out to a bunch of breakout pieces that give more details on unemployment insurance, on the original stimulus checks that came out, on paid sick leave, and just some like generic money Q&A, what should I do with my money right now type stuff, mortgage and rent relief, student loan relief, credit card relief. So it's sort of this hub where everything's there, and you'll get links to all of the resources within there to dive deeper into the thing that's affecting you right now, the thing you need help with. And so, yeah, you will find us and follow along. We're still doing the daily money tips and inspiration and helping people get their money right and in order and take control of it and grow their wealth. Even with what's going on right now, just getting those small wins has been huge for people. So we're encouraging that.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Jake, thank you for joining us today.
Well, thanks for having me, Harlan. As always, it's a pleasure and great to talk to you.
We're taking a break from our regular season podcasts to bring you episodes based on our popular series of live webinars. We do appreciate your tuning in to watch these recorded live. You can catch them on Zoom or on Facebook. Follow Plutus Awards on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram to learn more about how you can watch and be a part of the next live webinar.